Of an upbeat part of our meeting, and we're going to hear our guest speakers who are from the Museum of Aviation in Warner Robins, and I've asked Alan Gravel to do the introductions.
Gus. One is Arthur Sullivan, he's a curator, and he'll be talking to you. The other person that's here is Darlene McLendon, who's the president CEO of the museum, and I'll let them handle the program, but just wanted to say how much we appreciate y'all coming, and hopefully we can organize this group to come down and take a look at all the airplanes there, but mostly the Caribou. So thanks.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, or afternoon. I think we're right on the cusp of afternoon. So good morning. I really appreciate you having us here. Darlene and I are very appreciative of your hospitality. I guess, first of all, I'd like to start off and just say that on behalf of Darlene and I, we're grateful for your service. My father was a combat wounded veteran of the Korean War, and I have the incredible privilege of working with our veterans on a daily basis. So thank you for your service, and thank you for having us here today. Briefly, just wanted to give you an overview of the Museum of Aviation, who we are, what we do, why we do it. Show you a few things we have going on and a few things we have coming in the future. Darlene's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the foundation programs that she runs, and we'll take any questions you might have. All right, so United States Air Force Project Warrior, that was kind of what kick-started the Museum of Aviation. So there was a program in the early 80s. The Air Force was coming off the post-Vietnam drawdown, and there was a concern within the Air Force that the Air Force itself was adopting too much of a 9-to-5 business model. So in an effort to help airmen embrace their heritage, a lot of commanders launched heritage initiatives, including events and small museums. So the Museum of Aviation here at Robins Air Force Base was one of those museums that was spawned out of Project Warrior. Major General Nuderin, who was at the time the WRLSC commander at Robins Air Force Base, he tasked the Plans and Programs Directorate there to collaborate with the local community to build a museum. And through their efforts, 1984, 37 years ago, the Museum of Aviation opened. I know somebody here, I apologize, I'm horrible with names, mentioned she was there for that opening. Right back there, there we go, yes ma'am. So wonderful connection there. So from that very small, humble beginning, all the way up until 2019, when we saw 631,000 visitors in 1 year. Now, of course, those are pre-COVID numbers, and those have taken quite an interesting turn since then, but we are very proud to say, to show that growth through the years. Just a little glimpse under the tent there. This is where the museum is now. This was 1981. There was not much there at the time, just an empty field. 1990, continued growth with partnership through our foundation. At the time, we were mostly an air park. There's lots of outside aircraft and only one small exhibit hangar during that time. To where we are today, we're a modern aviation museum, 4 exhibit hangars, and again, that 630,000 visitor mark is something that we're very, very proud of. A little bit of our structure, who we are. So we are a United States Air Force Museum. We're DoD funded. We come under the Air Force Material Command and the Air Force Sustainment Center, and then we fall directly under the 78th Air Base Wing at Robins Air Force Base. So that's sort of our chain of command. We have an AFI, for those of you who are familiar with those, Air Force instructions. So that's kind of our operating manual. It keeps us in line. It controls everything from how we interact with the public to how we control and protect our artifacts. Our mission statement there is pretty clear, to portray the history of Robins Air Force Base as part of the heritage of the United States Air Force, educate and inspire our visitors, and recruit the future workforce. Under that sort of structure, our strategic priorities are to preserve and present U.S. Air Force heritage, to inspire, motivate, and educate, and to enhance our position as a major regional museum. So the greater U.S. Air Force History and Museums program, of which we are a part, we're charged with that mission of preserving United States Air Force history. The Museum of Aviation itself is a field museum, so we're a smaller entity within the greater U.S. Air Force museum system. Everything that we have, from our aircraft to our uniforms, all of our artifacts belong to the United States Air Force. And I'll talk about in just a minute why I feel like that's important. Facilities as well there, the hangars, all of our infrastructure is paid for and maintained by the United States Air Force. We are one of the largest aviation museums in the United States. Again, 4 exhibit hangars, over 90 aircraft, missiles, cockpits, vehicles. We're proud to be home of the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. Ms. McLendon will talk more about that shortly. And we've earned 6 Air Force Level Heritage Awards since 2009. Admission is free. We're a DoD museum, so I love when I get calls on the phone and people say, how much is it to come in? And I can tell them, hey, it's free to come here. Bring your family, bring your kids. I want to talk real briefly as I get ready to introduce Ms. McLendon about a unique partnership. So again, our facilities, our artifacts, our curatorial staff, we're all government employees, maintained, funded by the United States Air Force by your tax dollars. Our Museum of Aviation Foundation works in partnership with us. They are a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting our mission. I really, truly believe that this unique partnership is why we are so great, why we are great today, why we are what we are today. So we have the benefits of being stable because we have government funding, federal funding. So artifacts, buildings, staff, you know, those are stable. And in uncertain times like we're in now, that's very important, I believe. I tell people when they when they donate items to the museum, it's a 200+ year commitment that they're getting from the Air Force to take care of these items. So they have that security of knowing that when they dedicate something that means a lot to them, we're going to take care of it for perpetuity. But we also have the wonderful benefit of working with our foundation and the flexibility they have as a nonprofit to fundraise, you know, build buildings and do other things. So with that in mind, Darlene, if you want to come up, she's going to talk to you a little bit about the Museum of Aviation Foundation and what it does.
Thank you so much for, again, welcoming Arthur and I with you today. When he talked to me about this opportunity, it was very exciting to me to come. And like he said, thank you for your service and the honor that you deserve in our country. And we do look forward to your visit because you will see that we have a lot of exhibits dedicated to that era. So as Arthur said, am I doing it right? Yes. I think now we're up to speed. Thank you, sir. Yes, the museum itself and their staff is funded by the U.S. Air Force. However, that does provide for stability, but we want to provide for future growth. We want exciting exhibits to welcome our visitors. The foundation, as Arthur already mentioned, the museum was built by the community. We're that community connecting point. The U.S. Air Force is not going to go out and solicit funds because they're the U.S. Air Force. That's where the foundation comes in to play. We work with the partners at the Museum of Aviation to fund what they see as new exhibits that we need. And they've got exciting things on tap and in line for the future that I think you're going to enjoy coming to see. I know our community is excited about what they see happening. The foundation, we get the privilege, like I say, to raise funds for those extra bonus activities, extra exhibits, extra aspects of the museum. We just installed phase 1 of a new playground. Well, why do we want a new playground? Because we want visitors coming to the museum. The museum is a great place for recruitment for future service to our country, whether the Air Force or any military aspect. Arthur already mentioned that the Air Force requires the heritage programs that we educate. We educate the community, we educate our visitors, we educate airmen. We, as the foundation, oversee our National STEM Academy, which helps them check that box of that need to be part of the heritage program. And this is very, very exciting. The foundation oversees this program, and I can tell you to the tune of over $300,000 a year to provide STEM education. Well, why do we do that? It inspires a workforce. What do we need an inspired, STEM-motivated workforce for? Well, obviously aviation but we also have Purdue Chicken in our community that uses water to cut chicken. Well, you know, everything is going higher technology. So we have got to be in that workforce development mode, and that's how we meet the initiative of our STEM Academy. The foundation also, and here's some photos of our STEM Academy students. As Arthur already mentioned, we also oversee the management of the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. That is a fabulous group. It's a board appointed by the state of Georgia's governor, and they meet and they look each year to honor Georgia aviators. We have women Georgia aviators that they honor. Obviously, we have the span of different war eras in their exhibits. Their exhibits are the second floor of our Century of Light hangar. So when you come to visit, I hope that you'll visit the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. You might find somebody that you know, because I'm certain that you have a lot of connections in the aviation field, and there's a lot of people. We have Delta honored. We have, again, different eras of wars are represented in the Georgia, the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. One thing I'm most excited about, and I hope if you've traveled south or north on I-75, southbound around Locust Grove, northbound in Perry, Georgia, you've seen a billboard talk about the Georgia World War II Heritage Trail. Georgia played a huge role in that war. Probably most of you know even more about that than I do, because you're history lovers and study in aviation and military. But we have combined together for 10 spots across the state, and again, that's how the foundation can work, because it took fundraising to start this. It's a state tourism trail. And that just, again, encourages people to come to Georgia, learn more about our history, our museum, our Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame. We have an exciting event that we're going to be bringing to Middle Georgia in May 21st and 22nd. It is the Commemorative Air Force Warbird Tour. So I encourage you to watch our website, museumofaviation.org, for information about that, for information about all of our events, and come down to Middle Georgia and see a B-17 and some other World War II aircraft. And they're actually going to be taking the B-17 up about 3 or 4 times a day, so you can actually secure a seat. But Arthur gets to plan all the great exhibits. I get to find a way to finance them. And it is certainly an honor and a privilege for us to do so. Again, the website that I mentioned already, museumofaviation.org. My job is to raise money, so I cannot be ashamed of it. I love doing it. You can also pick up an envelope from me today if you so wish. We have our annual fund each year, and we are tasked. We have to raise almost $2 million each year to fund the needs of the museum, to fund my staff to help do our events and things. And our annual fund brings about 1/10 of that to us each year. So we look forward to engaging and getting to know across the state, across the nation, and gathering support. Again, I do have some envelopes, and you can find that on our website as well. We also have a Friends of Museum membership program, and you can follow us. You'll get a quarterly newsletter that keeps you up to date for all the exhibits and the activities that the military side of the house have planned for you. Open cockpit days, really special things that Arthur and his team have put together, and we're moving forward. We've all been through enough of the bad stuff the last 2 years, right? It is time to move forward with excitement and welcoming you to the museum. And how do we do it? How could we afford to staff everybody that we need to run the hangars and greet the visitors, greet the students, greet the families? We have a task force of about 94 volunteers. That also falls up under the foundation side. We pay the staff member that manages the volunteers, make sure that they're covering their buildings. Over 1 million man-hours since 1984, since we opened. It is an incredible opportunity, and honestly, not just for them to man the desk, but for us to learn from them, because most of them are veterans or they're widows, and just to hear their stories. It's a lot like I've heard this morning. You know, the love of our country, the love of what they did, the love of service, and it's an honor that they they have chosen to donate their time to the museum. And I believe that is ending my part, and I'll let Arthur get back up.
Thank you, Darlene.
Thank you, Darlene. Yeah, and I will certainly echo, people, when they come to our museum and I get the chance to talk to them and they say, yeah, we really enjoyed it, we had a great time, I tell them to go thank a volunteer. We absolutely could not do what we do without our volunteers. Incredibly thankful for them. So I just want to briefly talk to you about some of our artifacts, some of our aircraft exhibits, a few things we've got going on now and in the future. By no means is this a comprehensive list, but just a couple of the new things we have and on the horizon. We recently received an AC-130U armament trainer, so this is an AC-130A fuselage. This was actually a combat veteran C-130A converted to an AC-130A model. Flew combat missions, and was eventually retired and used as an armament trainer down at Hobart Field, Florida. We brought that to the museum, and it'll be opened up in the very near future for Darlene and her staff to do tours. The cockpit and rear section of that airplane are complete, so we're very excited about that. Somebody asked me earlier how many aircraft we have. We have around 71 actual aircraft. About 20 of those are outside. The majority of them are inside. We strive to bring everything inside whenever possible, just to protect it from the elements. The Georgia heat and humidity can be brutal on aircraft when they're left outside. We have an F-117A Nighthawk, a stealth fighter, as some of you may know it as, that will be arriving sometime in 2023. Very excited about that. That aircraft will require extensive restoration when it arrives. You can see that picture there. The demill process they go through removes most of the radar absorbent material, most of the leading edges. It's in pretty rough shape when we receive it. So again, that's an area where our volunteers come into play and help us get those type aircraft back up to spec. We also recently received, this aircraft just arrived late last year, a P-63 King Cobra from the National Museum of the United States Air Force. This aircraft was in storage there, and the National Museum saw fit to let us have it and put it on display, and it's right next to our B-17 now. The C-45 Expediter also came down from the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force alongside that aircraft. This particular aircraft, small liaison aircraft from World War II, will go on exhibit in the very near future in our World War II hangar. Of note, there was a C-45 crash at Robins Air Force Base in 1947. Actually, we're coming up on the 75th anniversary of that crash. It was February 13th, 1947. 7 airmen killed in that crash, so we're going to try to put together a small exhibit alongside the C-45 to commemorate them. Our B-17 restoration, Darlene mentioned that. We're extremely proud of this. This aircraft is B-17G. It came off the assembly line in late war period, went directly into storage, never saw combat. It was actually converted and flown as a drone control aircraft. It flew in Operation Greenhouse, some of the nuclear testing that was done post-war, and then set outside from 1961 until 2015 when it was moved to the Museum of Aviation. It came to the Museum of Aviation from Grissom Museum, the Grissom Museum there. We're in about year 6 of probably a 10-year restoration on that aircraft. Probably one of the most extensive B-17 restorations in the U.S. today for a non-flying aircraft. The exterior is about 80% complete now, 85% complete, and we've moved most of our restoration efforts into the inside. So when you come down as a group, we'll certainly get you around the B-17 and a peek inside as well, hopefully. We have a MQ-1 Predator that we're getting ready to suspend in our rotunda. I know a few of you that I talked to before who've been to the museum remember the F-15. As you come in the main entrance to the museum, there's a large rotunda with an F-15 there. There used to be a TG-4 glider suspended over that, and we've brought that down, and there's going to be an MQ-1 Predator that's going in its place here in the very near future. And here's our Caribou. Yeah, right. So we're very excited. This is one of our airplanes that was outside for many years. I know the last time the Caribou Association was there as a group, it was outside. We've since finished the restoration, moved the airplane inside, and are preparing to open a small exhibit with the help of the Caribou Association beside that aircraft. Our F-100 Super Sabre is another combat veteran Vietnam-era aircraft. This one is particular interest. General Rick Goddard, Major General Rick Goddard, flew this aircraft in Vietnam as a young first lieutenant. He had about 180 of his 200 plus combat missions were actually flown in this specific aircraft. He went out and found the airplane. It was a gate guard at Otis Air National Guard Base in Massachusetts, and arranged a trade where we sent them our F-100, and they gave us this combat veteran aircraft. And then he actually was involved heavily in the restoration of the airplane. So it's a pretty neat story. He was actually at the museum yesterday with a group of his friends showing off his airplane. And it is, by all means, his airplane. But anyways, this is a great example of what I like to consider a historic upgrade, where we took a non-combat aircraft we had and were able to upgrade it to a combat veteran and save it. As we look towards the future, you know, the Museum of Aviation is well positioned with our partnership with the Foundation to be the only place in the Southeast you'll be able to see certain aircraft, F-117, B-2, C-5, these type aircraft. Our E-8 J-Stars, that's a mission that's based at Robins Air Force Base there. And they're getting ready to retire those jets, and we'll have one there soon. So it will be the only place in the United States you'll be able to see that jet and learn about that mission. I did want to briefly, in closing, invite everyone down. We have an event we're working on with the Foundation support. So we're actually supporting the Foundation. It's mostly their event, but it's Family Aviation Day. It's in March 19th of this year. We'll have a couple of Air Force helicopters fly in. I think we have quite a few helicopter people in the room from what I heard. So we'll have a couple of Air Force helicopters fly in, land on site, have activities for kids and families. It's on a Saturday, so aside from your official visit, please come down and visit us and take part in Family Aviation Day. And that is all I had. Do we do questions now, or you might have any questions for me, Darlene?
Don't be shy.
Art? I'm interested how the STEM program got started and where it's evolving to.
Yeah. Darlene, please.
And repeat the question also, please, if you would.
Certainly, the STEM program was started and where we see it evolving into in the future. Sadly, I don't know the actual year that it started, but it has been in existence for I think about 20 years now. There's been some type of educational program. Where we see it evolving to, as a matter of fact, to answer that question, we have our first ever industry reception planned in April, because we need to know where our industries need us to evolve our program into. Now, when I say that we have STEM programs, we have summer camps, we have Saturday STEM camps, we have constant field trips from different schools come in. We have, excuse me, we have a computer lab that, thanks to some money recently from AT&T, we were able to do an extensive update to our computer lab, where we have 3D printers, where during these programs for the students, for instance, they'll come in and the older students will have a Mars camp where they have like a rover, which they have to program. They have to learn how to program the rover. And they think that everything is fine because we have an interactive map on the floor, and these rovers have to go over and manage the different terrain. Well, overnight, the little pixies come out and break things on their rovers. So they come in the next day, and the students are like, well, it's not working. It worked yesterday. And of course, the teachers are like, well, what are you going to do? You know, and also, as you know, in Air Force and with aircraft, some things aren't manufactured anymore. So they have to figure out a way to design a program to go into the computer lab and 3D print maybe a part for their rover. And all of this is to start that innovative mind process. If we can inspire children, you know, a lot of people focus on workforce development in middle school, or primarily high school and college. But I've raised 2 children. If you haven't snagged their interest by the time they're in high school, you are on a losing mission sometime. So if we can get them inspired that they don't even realize they're looking to a career path, then in elementary, and in particular, to inspire the girls to go into STEM. I met with an economic developer just last week, and I spent 10 years in the chamber and community development industry. So it just blows my mind how many people, I heard someone say they used to work for Georgia Power, how your utilities are helping your community behind the scene constantly to grow that workforce pipeline. And it has changed a lot. We don't even know the future jobs. But I was talking with Angie from the House and County Development Authority, and they now do some science aptitude tests differently than they used to in school. And the girls outscored the boys in engineering aptitude. But they were so low in interest. So we still have to change those dynamics. So where is it going? We hope that our industry can tell us. We think, and I know they do a good job. Our STEM Academy teachers, they're all former teachers, highly educated. But the most important thing, they're extremely motivated. They love children. They love learning. We have programs from pre-K up through 12th grade. We also have teacher STEM camps to inspire them. They're so busy, you know, trying to do their normal teaching job that they look for opportunities. We partner a lot with like NASA to make sure that we are expanding their abilities to stay up to date on the latest, newest, not just the technology, but how to present it to students. We have STEM kits that the community and our students can come check out, the schools can check out, the teachers can check out. So that is one of most our dynamic programs we have, is the education, because we cannot sit still. We cannot sit still. We have to stay motivated and we have to stay guided. So we're hoping our industry partners will look at our programs, tell us if we're doing good, tell us if we're not, and then tell us where we need to go in the future.
Next question.
I think it ought to be noted that one of the most recent inductees in the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame is an AVVBA member, Jim Hoover, who flew C-130s in Vietnam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did everybody hear that?
Yes, he was inducted just in October, last October. And that induction ceremony is typically in the spring, and it is returning to April, and it will be in Griffin, Georgia. So that group, the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame, you can find them on the internet as well. They have their own website, their own Facebook. They seek nominations every year. So I would think many of you would know somebody that would be worthy to be nominated for those honors. But thank you so much for bringing that up.
Next question. Yes, sir.
Do you still have the C-130 that was modified for the rescue tech in Iraq? Repeat the question, please.
So the question was, do we still have the Credible Sport C-130 that was modified for the hostage rescue situation in Iran? And we do not, no sir. That aircraft is actually at a museum in New York now.
Any other questions?
Some may want to know that you have an SR-71.
We do. We have an SR-71, yes sir, very prominent in our Century of Flight hangar. It is actually the SR-71 that set the absolute world speed record on a closed course. Unfortunately, it's elevated now, so not really able to access the cockpit. I know we were talking about that earlier with some people, so, but yes, we do have that aircraft.
Y'all get any other stuff from Hurlburt?
We do, yes sir. That Hulbert's been,
Question, sir.
the question was, do we get any other artifacts or items from Hulbert Field? Yes, sir. So we do. We've been actually worked pretty closely with them on bringing the AC-130U trainer. They've supported us with everything from TOs to some gun cutaways for the 40 millimeter, 105, and 25 millimeter guns. We actually have a restoration specialist that is on our staff now that's a former AC-130H crew chief who has a lot of connections still at Hulbert, so they've been a wonderful support to us, sure have.
Yeah, there are a number of us in this room, to include yours truly, that literally owe their lives to those C-130 gunships. So, yes, sir.
Maybe of interest to this group, can you rattle through the inventory that you have that's Vietnam era?
Ooh, goodness. Absolutely. So the question was, can I rattle through our Vietnam inventory that's relevant to this group? So let me see. We have about 4,500 small artifacts and about 71 aircraft. Of the aircraft, just off the top of my head, certainly our neutering hangar would probably be of most interest to this group. That's sort of our Vietnam-focused hangar. The C-7 is not in that hangar. It's in a different hangar. But otherwise, we have an A-37 in that hangar. It's a combat veteran. F-100 that's a combat veteran. F-105 that's a combat veteran. F-4 that's a combat veteran. UH-1P that's a combat veteran. I could go on and on. That hangar is slap full, HH-3, slap full of aircraft and artifacts that would be, I'm sure, of great interest to this group. So I would say certainly as the group talks about coming down, that would be a place we would spend a lot of time when the group is able to come and get you in some airplanes and around them and close up. Does that answer your question? Sir? I'm sorry? Skyraider? No, we do not have a Skyraider, unfortunately. No, sir. Those are very hard to come by. Very hard.
You have a P-51 from World War II?
We have a P-51H model. It's a post-war model, so not a combat veteran P-51. No, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you all do research on each aircraft to find out the units it served with in combat?
We do, absolutely. So the question was, do we research our aircraft to find connections to certain units and that sort of thing? We absolutely do. Normally, when we're talking about a new aircraft acquisition, our ideal is to already have that research file built out before the aircraft arrives. It just helps us prepare for it. In some instances, the P-63 that recently came is a good one, where it was already in another museum and that research file was kind of already built for us. But we absolutely do make those connections whenever possible. Yes, sir.
You put nose guard on the airplane as well?
When appropriate, yes, sir, we do. The question was, do we put nose art on the airplane? So, yes, sir.
This is more of a statement, like the lady back here that was at the museum when it opened. I was at the Air Force at the inception of the Air Force. My father was a major in the Army Air Corps, in the European theater, and after he got back from World War II, we had gone out of the service when we were in the reserve. He got called up for active duty to come back in at least 46, but in January 47, we went to what was Barksdale Field at that time, later Barksdale Air Force Base, Staff Air Force Base. And so he was an engineer there at the base when this was going on. I was 3, but I can remember going out to one of the fields he was looking at where they had a large aircraft crash on it. It was a B-29, but just looked huge. But anyway, it was where I first got involved.
Yes, sir. And it's of interest. The Air Force is a very young service in general, and I tell people all the time, as a service, we're still kind of grappling with our own heritage and how to preserve and honor the memory of those who came before us. So I'm proud to be a little part of that. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Well, this is for Skip. Has anybody finished? We can talk now.
I don't have my hearing aids in, I'm sorry, what?
There's a new book out called You Can Talk Now. I just wondered if anybody's finished.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll talk about that in just a second. So thank you all very much. And we give complimentary copies of our book, and there's also a challenge coin in there.